What's up everyone, my name is PlatinumHowler, coach of your Delta Gligars, and today I am bringing you my Week 2 Team Builder for Season 3 of the APA Academy. This match is going to be against MattOshea and his Montreal Milotics, and you can see his team on the right side of the screen. This will be our first time battling against Matt. As far as I know, he is a fellow Canadian, so make sure to go check his channel out. His links will be in the description below. He, just like us, is coming off a 3-0 win in Week 1, so one of us is going to suffer our first loss of the season, and the other is going to continue the positive momentum going into Week 3, and hopefully that will be us. Once again, I have brought a very offensive team, a very similar team to the one I had last week, 5 of the same 6 Mons. And I'm going to be going over them in the exact same order that I went over my team last week, starting with Necrozma. I realize now how Alolan Persian is basically an absolute must-bring against Necrozma in this generation, because you have to be able to cover its Dragon Dance set. And barring Alolan Persian and Vikavolt to an extent, because Vikavolt can definitely be built bulky enough to live a hit from Necrozma, and then Mug Buzz hits it super hard. Alolan Persian is probably the best check to Dragon Dance Necrozma that there is. So last week we bought Trick Room as our form of speed control, but this time we're going with Autotomize to boost our speed +2. Once we get to +2, we should be outspeeding even a max speed Scarf Jirachi. The one thing that we may not outspeed that could definitely come is a Scarf Terrakion. Jolly Scarf Terrakion will outspeed this Necrozma at +2 speed even after an Autotomize. We didn't put maximum investment into special attack because once we get to +1, I feel like we'll be able to pick up the KOs that we need on pretty much everything on his team with the investment that we have. I wanted a little bit of extra bulk in there, because certain Scarf Mons, he can bring in, like I mentioned, well, Terrakion is really the only Scarf Mon that he can bring in to revenge me. But I wanted to make sure that I had a little bit of bulk so that I could take hits even after I get the setup, take hits to allow me to get both an Autotomize and a Calm Mind up. The Tanga Berry is going to be very nice because there are a lot of bug-type coverage moves that he could have to deal with Necrozma on his team. Vikavolt I already mentioned with Bug Buzz. Terrakion gets Mega Horn this generation, which is going to hit Necrozma super hard, and it's actually even more accurate than its Stone Edge would be. And also, Haxorus can get First Impression. While I don't think he will bring First Impression on it, because I feel like he needs 3 coverage moves for the rest of my team. Well, I mean, he could bring it if he opts to not bring a setup Haxorus. Like, if he just brings 4 attacks Haxorus, then that 4th attack could absolutely be First Impression. Point being, he has a lot of offensive answers for Necrozma, so Tanga Berry could really come in clutch there. I thought about running Stored Power instead of Photon Geyser, but once I get Autotomize and Calm Mind up, Stored Power would be the same base power as Photon Geyser anyway. So if I need a more powerful Psychic type stab option before I can get both boosts up, then Photon Geyser is probably better. Yes, it has fewer PP, but I don't think I will be needing more PP in this situation. He doesn't have any Mons with pressure that can that I feel threatened being able to stall me out. And our coverage move is going to be Heat Wave. That is going to hit the Jirachi and Vikavolt super effectively. And if we can have our Sun up while Necrozma is on the field, then at +1 special attack, and with the Sun boost on top of that, Heat Wave is going to be absolutely annihilating Jirachi and Vikavolt. Jirachi can, depending on how it's built, it might be able to survive a +1 Heat Wave from Necrozma, but no chance if the Sun is up. And +1 Heat Wave pretty much should do the trick against Vikavolt 100% of the time, unless it's like an Assault Vest set. Next up, we have this Revile. Again, just an all-around good mon in this matchup. It outspeeds his entire team. and he doesn't have the most reliable ways of boosting speed, like your speed setup. I mean, he does have a Dragon Dancing Haxorus, but I have Ice Shard for that. Just your standard ass Revile, you know? 4 attacks that hit super hard. Low kick is the more interchangeable 4th move this time around because it's going to hit the Terrakion super hard. Blastoise could potentially be a switch into this, but Knockoff is still going to hit it super hard as long as it's still holding an item. Alcremie could potentially switch into a Knockoff and then G-Max up and definitely be able to live any hit that we go for. We don't have Poison Jab for the Alcremie. Icicle Crash is going to be hitting plenty hard enough, I feel. Alcremie usually isn't very bulky on the physical side, but we definitely will have to wait for the G-Max turns to be up before we start trying to KO it with our Revile. Next up, G-Max Anaconda is generally a good mon to bring on this team if I need something that can just absorb a hit or two and basically not have something just run through my team. It's a bulky ground type when it's Gigantamaxed up because it just has so much HP. We have 36 speed on this. That is going to allow us to outspeed a modest max speed Vikavolt, and we'll be able to hit that with a Stone Edge or a max Rockfall. We can get Stealth Rocks up if we so choose. Iron Head, max Steel Spike, that's going to be the best way of dealing with Alcremie. This could, like, if we can get a defense boost from max Steel Spike and Anaconda's still relatively healthy, he's going to have a lot of trouble breaking this. Then Earthquake, of course, for our ground coverage that will turn into G-Max Sandblast in G-Max form, and we'll be able to get that residual damage off against his team. I'm also hoping that he doesn't run a crazy amount of speed on his Alcremie because I definitely want to be outspeeding his Alcremie with Anaconda, because this is one of the 2 things that I have on my team that I can bring in against Alcremie to stall out its G-Max turns. So I may hard switch into it, and if I find that I'm taking too much damage and there's not really much point in me G-Maxing up, then I can just set Stealth Rocks instead. Next up here, we have our Torkoal. Last week we brought it as an air balloon set, but this time we have Heat Rock for maximum turns of sun. I want the sun up at all times during this game if I can help it. Our max physically defensive, because we can actually take a choice banded Stone Edge from a Jolly Terrakion with this investment. And Body Press is going to do a lot of damage to it in return. Of course, super effective, and we have a massive defense stat. I thought about running Solar Beam in that slot because Solar Beam would hit Terrakion and Blastoise super effectively, but Body Press is doing more damage to Terrakion than Solar Beam would be, so I decided to just go with Body Press and forego the grass type coverage to catch a Blastoise switch in, because we do have a Venusaur on our team that generally is pretty good at dealing with stuff like Blastoise. Rapid Spin to keep rocks and sticky webs off the field. If he decides to bring a sticky web Vikavolt, Rapid Spin is going to be very important in preventing that, because the main things that we want to be fast, being our Necrozma, Revile, and Venusaur, are all vulnerable to sticky webs. We also have Yawn on here because I feel like a status move on this set is absolutely necessary in case he brings Wobbuffet to try to trap my Sunsetter and get rid of it that way. I don't want to have only 4 attacks and then be stuck in against the Wobbuffet, and then it's just going to Mirror Coat. It's just going to Mirror Coat the crap out of me. Yeah, I don't want Torkoal to get trapped in because I need the Sun at all points in this game. In fact, if I see Alolan Persian, which I almost certainly will, Torkoal is definitely going to be my lead in this game so I can get the Sun up right from turn 1. And our primary Sun abuser, of course, is going to be Venusaur. Modest max speed means we speed tie with Jolly max speed Scarfed Terrakion. I could have very easily ran Timid Venusaur to make sure that I outsped Scarfed Terrakion, but you know, this is a regular season match. It's not the end of the world if we take a gamble and it doesn't pay off. So we'll just run Modest Venusaur. We have a 50-50 chance of outspeeding that if that's the exact set that he brings. And I just want as much power as possible with this Venusaur. So we have double Life Orbs actually. Life Orb on Revile and Life Orb on the Venusaur as well. We have 3 coverage moves and growth. Same sort of thing as dealing with Wobbuffet if he brings it. I don't want to be stuck in against Wobbuffet and have to attack it and then just die to a Mirror Coat. I'm realizing now that Sleep Powder probably would have been better for that because growth he can Encore me into it. I'd much rather be Encored into Sleep Powder than Encored into growth. As long as the sun is up on my side of the field, I want Venusaur on the field as often as I possibly can. This is not something that can check Alcremie all that easily because it is pretty naturally especially defensive, and Alcremie does get both Psychic and Fire coverage. If he wants to be able to break a Copperajah on my side of the field, that of course I'm not bringing, then he will want the Fire coverage. So I could have brought a berry on this Venusaur to try to not take as much damage from the Alcremie's attack, whether it be Psychic or Fire coverage. But I didn't want to predict which coverage that he would have on his set, and if I have the sun up already for him before he clicks Max Flare with Alcremie, then it's probably doing way too much damage anyway. So I'll just try to use other members on my team to check that thing while it still has its Gmax form available to it. Last but not least, I warned you about whack Mimikyu sets that I tend to bring. Well, this is definitely one of them. Here is the last model on our team this week. Initially, I had Heliolisk in this slot, but then I started to realize Heliolisk doesn't really provide me anything that Venusaur doesn't already. So let's bring something like Mimikyu that has Disguise that can take a couple more hits than Heliolisk can, and that can just be sort of function more of a Gluemon for the team. You might also remember in the draft analysis I talked about using the item Eject Pack, and I'm hoping that this comes in clutch this week. Eject Pack is specifically for Alolan Persian. The plan is, if he leads Alolan Persian, just like my opponent last week did against me, and I can have Torkoal on the field and get the sun up right away. He clicks Parting Shot against Parting Shot with the Persian on the first turn. As I switch into Mimikyu, Eject Pack is going to activate, and it should function the same way as U-Turn functions when it hits a Pokemon with the Eject button. The Eject button Mon switches out first, and the Mon that clicks U-Turn does not get any switch initiative. So if it works as I think it will, then I can switch in Mimikyu as he clicks Parting Shot, my Eject Pack will activate, and I can get Venusaur out for free with 7 turns of Sun still available for me to exploit. As for the rest of the moveset, we have Phantom Force. So obviously we disappear on the first turn and we are in a semi-invulnerable state, as Pokemon calls it. So that's going to be really nice to stall out Gmax turns for Alcremie, because we can click Phantom Force, we'll outspeed it, and then we'll attack it on the next turn, and we will burn one of its two we'll burn 2 of its 3 Gmax turns by clicking Phantom Force, which is cool. It won't be doing a tremendous amount of damage, but we can taunt it, preventing it from clicking Recover. We can also taunt a Shell Smashing Blastoise to prevent it from clicking Shell Smash. We have enough speed on our Mimikyu to outspeed a Blastoise that is speed creeping a Scarfed Heliolisk once it gets to +2 after clicking its Shell Smash. Rough is on here to deal damage to things like Terrakion and Haxorus and Alolan Persian. And then we have Toxic, so we can whittle down his mons that have reliable recoveries, such as Vikavolt, Alcremie. We can also Toxic a bulky variant of Blastoise. That's going to be it for this team builder. Let me know what you think of the build, particularly what you think of this crazy Mimikyu set that I came up with this week. Hopefully we'll be able to pull out a W and improve to 2-0 on the season. We'll see you tomorrow with the actual battle.